First, get some clear Scotch tape, and you can lay this out on here. Line that edge up so it's as close to parallel with the dowel as possible, and tape it in the center there. You don't want to do a full length strip at the moment, because when you wrap this around, you have to make sure that all the lines for the spiral meet up. So you may have to, as you can see, I can twist it a little bit, and you may need to do that in either direction to get all the lines to line up perfectly. And if they're like the slightest bit off, like a pencil width off, it's not the end of the world, but get it as accurate as possible. So seems to line up in the center there. There, it's lined up. So tape it in the center here. And then make sure that paper is sitting flat on the dowel there. Once you get it in place, continue to tape it on. Here's a close-up of the dowel. I realized after looking at the camera that because of my light here, you really couldn't see any of the details. So you can see here is the edge where the paper was folded over, and you have to match up all the lines. And when you do that, it creates a nifty spiral. So now it's time to cut the kerf along the lines on the dowel tap here. Get a saw that has a saw plate about the same thickness as the steel that you'll be sticking, the steel plate you'll be sticking in the guide block. You can also stick a piece of green tape parallel to the bottom edge of the saw. This gives you a depth stop. Stick it up about 3/16 of an inch from the bottom. Good reason to keep this on the lathe while doing this is that you can rotate it while you're cutting. I've switched over to this Japanese saw because my cutting action is really chattery with the Western saw. Since this pulls on the back, or cuts on the backstroke, it works a lot better. Because I find it's a lot easier to go this way along the dowel and following the line backwards, because you can see the line coming. So it doesn't work very good with a saw that cuts on the push stroke. I wanted to point out one thing I just realized, and that is when I had taped this piece of paper on, when I had taped it on that end, I made sure that the tape went over the paper onto the dowel. When I taped it on this end, I obviously couldn't, because there's no dowel left to tape it to. And since I had only taped the piece of paper originally in the center and then started overlapping and taping, this piece of paper on the end here had come loose. So I'm actually only able to make this tap up to this point, because I lost about 2 inches there. So keep that in mind. Make sure you have it taped over on the dowel here, or when you're folding it over, before you tape it right over, make sure you tape the first edge to the dowel. After you have finished cutting the kerf in your dowel, you want to go over with your saw, making sure that the kerf is cut to depth all the way along. I forgot to show you how to get the angle for the steel plate in here, and the way you get it is from the spiral that you made. So I wrapped this around the dowel again and got the width marked out and marked the lines again. So that is the same angle that you will draw onto here. So quick way that I'm going to do this, any way you can get this laid out onto this piece will work. But so I'm going to line up this bottom edge on there, and you want to center this up approximately on the guide. I'm going to put my ruler along one of those lines and draw a line there, here, and take this off, put the ruler back on that line, and there you go. So now we have the angle for the steel plate. Now with the angle on the guide block here, I will continue the line across the end. And you can find, this is the side that has a line drawn on it, find the depth. You don't want the steel plate to go halfway into that hole, but a little bit less. So I'll see that's halfway is 1 7/8. So I'll go 1 3/4. Let's mark along here, 1 3/4. There, 1 3/4. And now we can use the saw to cut along that line. So clamp the block in your vise, and actually stick it like that. Use a saw that has the plate the same thickness as that steel, so probably the same saw that you used, well, should be the same saw that you used to cut the kerf in the dowel. Going to drill the hole for the handle. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch hole since it's such a thin dowel. Perfect. So right now we have a guide block with our hole drilled through it, the kerf cut for the steel plate. We have the dowel turned to size with the kerf cut in it and the hole drilled in there for the handle. So the next thing we got to do is cut the steel plate to go into the kerf in the guide block and finish up the guide block. After that we can start work on making the mortise for the cutter to go into, and then making the cutter and the wedge and I guess we can also make the handle. And that, after all that's done, we will have a working tap.